All right. Good morning, bows and bow ties. I just want to apologize right now for my car situation. My vehicle was going through service, and since I'm coming up on the warranty of my other car, I asked for a full check, and now they gotta like fix a fan belt thing, and I'm like, I thought it was bumper to bumper coverage. They're like, you do have bumper to bumper coverage, just not on that because that's normal wear and tear. I'm like, but isn't everything normal wear and tear in your car? So, nevertheless, I'm in my tank today, and I know it's like whistling. This is a loud car. Look, don't judge, okay? I'm going through something. So, anyway, I just wanted to circle back to the lady who I don't know what she was thinking when she put out that video. I think she thought she ate. Let me say this. I wanted to just bring up a couple of points in her video because that video had a lot of engagement, especially on my TikTok too. Like a lot of people are like, huh? I was really confused too with this lady. Let me just say this. Number one, she said that hit dogs were gonna holler. Or somebody said it. I don't know. Somebody in the comments said it. I think on both of my accounts, my YouTube and my TikTok account. I don't remember where I read it, and it was such a funny thing because I was like, you know what, you're right. So here it is, bow wow, woof woof, ruff ruff, whatever it is, right? And the reason why I responded the way I did was because I'm like, enough. I'm like, only women who look like me would get out here on Jesus's internet and bash other black women. They go hard. Like, there's a difference between holding people accountable and trying to bash people, right? Like, I feel like there's no love in anything. Number two, I'm trying to figure out who are these women who are 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 150 years old trying to compete with younger women. I'm sorry if I have to yell. That's because, there's a whole situation in this car. So before any of you get in my comments, like there was this one time at band camp, the only ones who are going to get that reference are those Gen Xers, right? Those Gen Xers, they'll get that. There was that one time at band camp. Where I'm going with that is like, if you're talking about something anecdotal, there was this one time I was in the club and I saw some older woman, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, if you're 40 or 50 something and you're seeing somebody in the club, you're that person then, right? What are you doing in there? Why are you in the club? Right? So I'm just kind of like, I'm not talking about these small populations or like these edge cases. I'm talking about the regular, everyday woman, right? Most of the women I know. So, okay, first of all, I'm in the wrong lane for this. I'm trying to get out of this lane. They're too slow. So, look, most of the women I know, they don't even have time to even get on these apps or create real profiles, let alone try to compete with young people. So that whole thing, I'm like, who is she hanging around? Who is this lady talking to? And I don't know who she thinks is trying to compete with young women. Like I said in my video, there is no competition. Number one, I'm going to tell you the reason why. Young women are in their prime. They're in their prime. Young women are gorgeous, hopefully fit. They're supposed to do a version of peacocking, right? They should. Number two, older women, my generation, for some reason, I feel like we are aging really well. There's nothing that says that you can't look good too. We're not, at least most women are not out here trying to attract 25-year-old men. There are some who may want to attract 25-year-old men, but I don't like qualifying because I feel like everybody's got to go like some men, some women, some white people, some white. I'm like, y'all know what I'm saying. So cut it out. The average woman is not, the average 50-year-old is not out here looking to attract a 25-year-old dude. She's not. Okay? Now, That doesn't mean that 52-year-old woman can't attract younger men, right? But where I'm going with it is, I don't know where this lady, I don't know who she's hanging out with. I don't want to hear everybody saying, oh, there's people who are at the club. I'm like, well, there's men at the club doing that. I'm like, come on, cut it out. The average woman in your life is not out here trying to compete with younger women. Number two, who's getting all these BBLs? BBL dressing. The BBLs. I'm like, you got women out here getting BBLs for these entertainers and rappers and all this other stuff. They're out here with all of these wigs that's got all the colors, like the yellow wig, the orange wig, the red wig. They are wearing all these wigs. Now, I'm not anti-wig. I just don't wear wigs because I don't like for my head to feel. I just don't like to wear. I'm not into it. So I tend to wear my hair. This is my hair. Yes, I know it looks like what it looks like, but you're gonna leave me alone. You can't accuse me of trying to compete with the young women. I need to wear my hair out, wear an afro, some sort of braid it out or twist it out. Look, I need to wash this. I have too much old product in my hair or braids. I've worn it straight. I wear it all. I do it all. Where I'm going with it is, you're talking about older women trying to compete with young women. I'm like, there's no competition. We're not competing with young women. We don't even want to deal with younger dudes like that anyway, because they're silly. We love the youth. Younger dudes are supposed to be silly. Young girls are supposed to be silly. That's why they're in their 20s. That's why you have kids in your early ages, because you're tired in your 50s, right? Like, we're not trying to do that. I'm just trying to figure out what kind of people is this woman surrounding herself with. And the thing that kills me the most about that woman was, she's clearly an older lady, right? Like, when I say older, she's middle-aged. She's probably, I'm going to guess, probably in her early 50s. She looks like she took care of herself. She's got some good skin. And I'm just sitting here thinking, like, you should have had enough discernment not to put out a video like that. I don't know how she thought that that was going to bring people together. All she did was cause division. Usually, you would expect, you're talking about teaching? Is that how you're teaching? I'm like, you're talking about we should be teaching the younger generation. Well, what you do is you can show people better than you can tell them, right? Show them. Teach. Teach. So what she did was, and I think the reason why I spoke on that was because I don't understand why there's this really big push for people to come for some of our elders. We know our elders were jacked up. I love our elders though, right? They weren't perfect. They had to make do with the hand that they were given. We know that there's trauma there. We know they've made mistakes, right? But this is where I want to speak for a second. Now, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and maybe I'm going to make people mad. It could be because I'm a younger Gen X, right? I'm going to say this. If you are a Gen Z or Alpha, Gen Alpha, those are children. Gen Zers, they're like my children's age and up. So my youngest are like 12. And so maybe up to 24, I guess. I don't know exactly that age. And I would say the younger millennials. Let me tell you something. I'm not talking to the older millennials. The older millennials have come around. They're starting to see things. What you would do to equip yourself, you are so smart and very creative. You need to spend your cycles. This is a slow lane. You need to spend your cycles creating solutions, right? Because some of the problems that you're dealing with are unique to you. They're not that far-fetched from other generations, but nevertheless, this son is doing some weird things in the video, so excuse me as I get around this bend. You need to spend your cycles creating solutions. Instead of whining and crying about all the things that are bothering you, you gotta start creating solutions. Now, my dysfunctional Gen Xers, I'm one of them, we created our own fun, we created our own solutions, we did all these other things, right? And what I'm saying to you was, it wasn't perfect, but you can't spend your entire time complaining about, oh, you didn't teach me this, you didn't teach me that. Heck, we didn't even have supervision half the time. We were, like they say, feral. We were just out there, right? And we had to learn and we had to figure things out. And yes, if you think that we are, let me rephrase that. We are also impacted by the decisions that the generations above us, the boomers and was it the silent generation, they've caused a lot of problems for us. There's a reason why they call us a sandwich generation. So I want you to go look that up and figure out the financial burden we're going to be dealing with too. We're the generation that has to take care of our parents and you guys. I want you to let that one sink in for a second, and then I'm going to circle back to the weirdo weight. We're the generation, that quiet generation that everybody, not the silent generation, but we're the ones that's forgotten. We have to take care of our parents' generation and kids right now. We are raising the Gen Zs and Alphas. I want you to let that sink in. You've got boomers who won't retire. You're talking about being in the way of promotion and all these other things. So, we come up with other solutions. I don't know what they all are yet. Now, where am I going with this? This woman said that we needed to the older women need to teach the younger generations. I agree with her to an extent, but also because some of these generations went through some things, I'm sitting here thinking like, well, what do you want them to teach then? What do you want them to teach outside of womanhood and sisterhood? But I'm like, that very video, she wasn't showing any form of sisterhood at all. And if you guys want to understand what I mean by sisterhood is that relationship between people with shared and lived experiences, right? That's the sisterhood. As you go through the various stages of womanhood, okay? You start off as a little girl, and then as you get older, you're a preteen, and then you deal with your teenage years, and then you have your young 20-something years where you are now competing for mates. And then you get older, and there's other different stages of womanhood. But throughout those stages of womanhood, there is sisterhood. That's what we're not seeing. I don't see us coming together, having the teas and stuff like that. I remember I did a tea with my mom and my sisters and then all of the granddaughters, stuff like that. That was about time. What I'm saying is to get out there on a video and to go after a group of women who many of them probably can't even engage in a form of sisterhood. Maybe they're dealing with trauma, but I don't see how what she's doing was helpful. She is too old to put out a ding-a-ling video like that. If you're talking about there should be teaching, then you teach. Teach. Don't say we should teach. Teach something. That's what you do when you're older. You teach something. Whether people want to listen to it or not, that is a separate deal. Teach something. And you don't worry about how many people are going to watch your video if you're authentic. Look at my little channel. My channel is just tiny. I appreciate all three of y'all who come to watch my videos. But I'm telling you right now, you don't worry about it. Well, number one, I don't eat off of these channels anyway. I need to start checking my back analytics. I don't check it enough. Virtually never. Because I don't have the cycles for it. Look, I have to do videos in my car on my way to work. That's what I do. I don't even have time, right? I'm here in a car complaining. I don't have time for that. I don't know any woman who has that many cycles to sit there and even think about. How am I going to compete with the 20-somethings today? If anything, I am entertained by the young people. I am. I learn from the young people too. I'm certainly not trying to compete with them. There's no competition. It doesn't mean that I don't look good for my age, but let's be clear. Generally speaking, I'm not competing with a 25-year-old, and I shouldn't be. I shouldn't be. And if somebody is, then okay. And why do you care? There might be a 45-year-old woman out there trying to compete with 25-year-olds. Let her compete. Maybe she's on the market. I'm just trying to figure out what was her real motivation behind a really ignorant kind of video like that. I wasn't sure like what she was looking to achieve in that video. And I want to give a shout out to all the men who know to stay out of women's business. This isn't for you, right? This isn't your fight. So stay out of women's business. Stay out of women's business. Mind yours, right? So, like I said, until my old baby checking men, women check women. So we're here, and y'all stay over there, okay? Now back to the weirdo who put out a weird video. If a 45-year-old woman decides, I'm going to compete today with a 25-year-old, I'm just trying to figure out where she was going with it. Let her try to compete. Maybe she's competitive. She clearly's got things going on. Instead of sitting here trying to bash this woman, what you do is say, sis, hey, what's going on? What's happening? What do you need? Where are we going with this? And why are you doing this, right? But you want to like go at women all psycho? I'm like, there's a reason why our culture is based off of shaming and dragging people. And then they're like, oh, we need to come together. You can't come together if you're going to be talked to like a piece of, you know what? You can't. There's no sisterhood. And I'm not saying everything requires you to put a pillow under somebody, but I'm like, this lady was too old to be putting out some dumb video like that. Maybe I need to put out dumb videos. I need to put out more. Well, maybe my videos are dumb. I need to put out more ignorant videos and start looking at the engagement numbers. Maybe I'll check the back end today. I'm going to see what's going on on my channel. I don't even know who's watching these videos because it changes. I just feel like if you are a middle-aged woman, you don't need to start getting out here ripping apart people. You're too old for that. What you need to do is get out here and teach them. If you're saying we need to teach. Teach something. Heck, you've got young girls out here. Look, you got young girls out here with classes on femininity. And they're out here in full-on wigs with the weirdo swoops and stuff, 5 pounds of makeup, nails looking like this. And they're trying to teach femininity. They think that's femininity. They think if you talk like this, that this makes you more feminine. They think that's what femininity is. So then what you do is, instead of dragging them, why don't you go out there and teach what is femininity? Teach that. Why don't you teach? Let me tell you something. You want to talk about teaching, lady? With the one who came out there and wanted to drag people? Why don't you show young women, since you're talking about you're assigning value to women in proximity to a man, right? Because she did a lot of that towards the back end of her video. Why don't you show them, since that's where their value, I guess, is going to lie in terms of finding a man? Why don't you show them how to land a man, since that's their value then, right? Why don't you talk about how to find their soulmate or whatever? Why don't you do that? Instead of ripping people apart, teach somebody something. Why don't you show them how to find somebody? Because you've got women out here going on these whacked out weirdo podcasts talking to these silly dudes about how to find a guy. You don't go to men on how to find a man. Let's be clear, because most men, if they're heterosexual, can't tell you how to land a man. They tell you what they want. They don't tell you how to land a guy. You find people who landed a man. Go find somebody you go to women who landed a man. You don't go to a man like, oh my gosh. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Go teach that. Instead, these silly women are getting out there with their BBLs and their wigs with the 500 colors and the nails and their joints are open all the way up to their navel, going on these podcasts talking to dudes about my man. Why don't you go talk about that, lady? Why don't you go talk about that? Teach something. Teach what it's like to have real joy, because you can't teach joy, but you can teach how to find joy. So then you don't have to seek those other things. That's teaching. That's when you start mentoring. That's the real stuff right there. But what you don't do is get out here on Jesus's internet, not internet. I said internet. Getting out here on Jesus's internet talking about the older woman trying to compete with the younger woman, and then find a man. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening here? What is happening? And they're just jealous. I'm like, what? I'm like, the younger generation is trying to have our music. They're trying to do what we did. And for the record, we love at least most of us, we love the younger generation. I love talking with my niece. She is a mess, and I love her. Not in a mess in a bad way, because she's funny. My daughter's 12, and she just said to me yesterday, Mom, I just want to do my edges, because she knows I always laugh at the edges, edge game. But they got the swoops and stuff, and everybody looks like they're part of the Lollipop Guild from the freaking Wizard of Oz. We represent the Lollipop Guild. I'm like, what's up with that? But that's the style. And she's like, Mom, I just want to do my edges. I'm like, look, all right, keep messing with your edges, because she doesn't do her edges, right? And I'm like, do your edges. Keep them moisturized. I have edges for a reason. You have edges for a reason. But I'm like, go ahead, knock yourself out. The point I'm going, I don't even know where I went with that. I was just having a hee-haw all by myself. Yeah. If you're 50 years old, this woman's clearly an older woman. She looks like she takes care of herself. She's got some good skin. I was just disappointed that she would come out here and put out a video like that. I was expecting someone of her age to put out something that made sense, that was meaningful. We've got a bunch of hurt women out here who are engaged in a bunch of shenanigans. They're trying to manage maybe their work life, their dating life, their friendships. We need to be talking more. To include myself, I feel like I can do more to talk about navigating friendships, frenemies, stuff like that. But what you don't want to do is tear down any group of people, and especially the older ones who brought people here, who are catching all the flack right now, and who had to deal with things that many of us didn't have to deal with. They were dealt a set of cards that they had to play with. And now we want to sit there and crucify them for it? It's so sick. I'm like, everybody's on their high horse. Sometimes I'm on mine, so sometimes I have to be checked too. I'm just like, give me a break. We're dealing with a bunch, and then you want to have a bunch of older women who may or may not be in a position where they can really teach certain things, because maybe they weren't given a set of tools to teach something. But what you can do is speak to a level of sisterhood. We can do that. Because there are common lived experiences. That woman was just out of pocket. She was just doing too much. Like, if I had an opportunity to talk to her in real life, we would definitely have a conversation, right? I'd be like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And she could be mad. I mean, people are allowed to be mad. I'm like, lady, you're doing too much. Be mad at me, then I don't care. I mean, like, it's not like we're besties or anything, but too much. All right, so I'm going to try to slurp on a little bit of this coffee. I've got about a minute before I arrive at my destination, maybe a minute and a half. And I feel like I want to have another follow-up to this. I just ran out of time. So let me know your thoughts. And make sure you subscribe.